Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Welcome to day 2 of the conference. My name's Piers Heaton-Armstrong. I'm Vice President of Affiliate Marketing at Amazon. I've been at Amazon about 8 years, and I run a number of the marketing channels and programs. I'm also on the board of the Amazon Smile Foundation. And one of the great things about that job that I get to do is once a quarter approve all the donations that we make to the thousands of charities that participate in the program. Every quarter we write some really big checks and we write some really small checks, but every penny counts towards all the really great causes that are part of the program, and it's a fantastic part of my job. I really, really enjoy it. One observation that I'd like to make with you this morning: I see that there are many, many charities that punch above their weight when it comes to earning through the Smile program. They don't necessarily have big teams, they don't have large marketing budgets, but they use every single tool in the book to communicate with their existing and their potential supporters. I think Scott Harrison of Charity Water did this really, really well very, very early on at the start of what has now become a really big charity. But there are also smaller charities that we see in the program, like the Big Cat Rescue charity in Tampa. They're really embracing social media and the Smile program itself. Big Cat Rescue has 683,000 subscribers on YouTube, 335,000 on Twitter. And their small team works in unison with the Smile team to maximize every single promotion, every single event that the Amazon Smile team does. They even have a fixed placement on the homepage of their website promoting the program. Nowadays, you don't need big budgets or big teams to get your brand out there. The same is true at Amazon. We think and act like a startup. We're frugal with headcount and with how we spend our money. We intentionally constrain our teams because it encourages people to innovate, to think big, and to try to simplify. And those are really, really important leadership principles that we really govern the company by. And you'll see a bunch of new innovations today from the Amazon Smile team a little bit later on this morning. So I just wanted to say thank you very, very much for your partnership, both with Amazon and with the Amazon Smile program, no matter how big or small you are. So into today's events. As always, we have a fun and action-packed agenda for you. There are sessions on machine learning, on updates within the Amazon Smile program itself, on the Internet of Things, and more. If you look at your agendas today, the programs, you'll see all the great things that are on there today. Please make sure you attend the ones that are of most interest to you. Later on this morning, I'll be moderating a discussion entitled Trends in Fundraising, and we have the closing keynote from a great colleague of mine, Neil Lindsay. A couple of other things to mention. We're introducing a new networking roundtable session at 11:15 this morning in this room. At that session, we'll have the table sorted by 5 different marketing and fundraising topics, and you'll have 45 minutes to discuss and network with your peers from across the nonprofit sector. I think this format, I don't know what you guys think, but this format seems to work really, really well. It feels much more intimate than it did last year, where we had everybody sitting in rows of seats. It feels a bit more together this year, and I really hope that the networking roundtable will bring more people together today. And also, just a reminder to make sure that you stay right to the end of today, because we have the ever-popular raffle after Neil's keynote speech, and we'll be giving away an Echo Plus, an Echo Spot, and wait for it, an Echo Show. So I know everyone's super excited about that. But first, it's my pleasure to introduce to you today a very, very special guest, Rick Shadyac. Since 2009, Rick has served as the President and Chief Executive Officer of ALSAC, the fundraising and awareness organization for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. He is only the 6th CEO of ALSAC since the organization was founded in 1957. During his tenure, Rick has led ALSAC to record-breaking achievements, guiding strategic efforts that have more than doubled fundraising revenue to support the life-saving mission of St. Jude. At the same time, Rick's leadership has resulted in St. Jude being named the Health Not-for-Profit brand 5 years in a row by Harris Interactive. St. Jude has also been named in the top 4 places millennials and Gen Zs want to work in the US for 7 straight years. And the St. Jude brand is recognized by 4 out of 5 Americans. Rick is also a community leader, serving as the board chair of Memphis Tomorrow, an organization for CEOs of the largest employers in Memphis, and helping to lead rebranding efforts for the city of Memphis. Rick's contributions have been recognized by a number of awards, including the 2017 Ellis Island Medal of Honor. In 2016, he became the only non-profit executive to ever receive the Responsible CEO of the Year award from Corporate Responsibility magazine. It's my great pleasure to welcome on stage Mr. Rick Shadyac.
I love horses. They like apples and carrots and tomatoes, maybe.
A lot of the children that are at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital are there for months or maybe even years, and they're not able to go out and see different parts of the world. This experience allows me to bring Kiara's dream to her from thousands of miles away. Hopefully, she'll feel as if she's here in Argentina and that she is on this adventure with these wild horses with me. Anything I can do to help make today better for her is my honor to do. Hi, Kiara. I'm Sarah. Are you ready to go see some wild horses?
Yeah.
Let's go. Wow.
Hey, Hannah. Are you ready to start this adventure?
Hey, Sagar. You ready to find some fossils?
Hi, Isaiah. How
Hi.
are you?
Wow. Look, a monkey.
Which one's your favorite?
That one. What's that?
This is a dinosaur carnivore.
That's a raptor, I think.
Wow.
High five. Yeah.
Good job.
Seeing the world really is a powerful thing, and we believe that everyone should have the chance to experience it.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. That's okay. That video gets to me all the time, too. My name is Rick Shadyac, and I had the privilege of serving as the President and Chief Executive Officer of ALSAC, which is the fundraising and awareness organization for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. We exist for no other purpose other than to raise the money and to create the awareness that's necessary to operate St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And I'm privileged to be here today. I'm kind of pinch hitting. You were supposed to be hearing from our Chief Marketing Officer, Emily Callahan, today. So you're stuck with me, the Chief Executive Officer, because Emily had a family emergency. So I hopped on a plane yesterday to be out here and join you all. And you know, I'm excited to talk about this power of storytelling to change the world. And I think that video kind of epitomizes exactly what I mean when I say that. You know, that video, which was co-produced by our great friends just down the street at Expedia, co-branded with Expedia, it's powerful. It's inspiring. It's deeply emotional. It's mesmerizing. It's heartbreaking. But really what it comes down to, guys, is that it's authentic. You see, kids just want to be kids, right? Kids want to be kids. Sick kids just want to be able to act like normal kids. And that's the power of that video. That video allowed those kids to do something that healthy kids get to do. Kids that are stuck at hospitals like St. Jude, who could be there for 3, 4, and 5 years at a time, don't get to do those things. Expedia saw the value in bringing that experience to them. So really, I think it's wonderful. I also think it fits great with this theme for this conference, Imagine a Better World. And I just want to start by complimenting all of you, because you're here and you already are doing great things in your communities and around the world. And today and yesterday, and I know for the rest of your careers that you're in not-for-profit work, you will be imagining how you can create an even better world. You know, I want to start with this quote here. That's the quote that our whole organization is built on, that no child should die in the dawn of life. But there's a quote from Gandhi that really does epitomize, you know, the way we all started, and that's be the change in the world that you wish to see. And you know, for us, the change that our founder, Danny Thomas, wanted to see was that cancer be eradicated, that kids that had childhood cancer actually have the opportunity to grow up. You know, some of you may be familiar with the story of St. Jude. I'm going to give you the 2-minute version of how we came to be. But, you know, Danny Thomas was a struggling actor and comedian, and you got to go back, you know, many, many decades ago. Go back to the 1930s, and he was literally down on his luck. And he was trying to figure out whether or not he should get a real job or continue to pursue his career in Hollywood. He wanted to be a comedian and a storyteller. And he walked into a church and he prayed to St. Jude, who's the patron saint of hopeless cases in the Catholic Church. And Danny was a Catholic. And he said, St. Jude, help me find my way in life, and I'll build you a shrine. He didn't know what he was saying, okay? He was just, you know, the basic question he was asking is, should I get a real job or should I pursue my passion? And you see, at that point, his wife was pregnant with what would turn out to be Marlo Thomas, and he didn't have health insurance. He was dirt poor. He was one of 10 kids. He hadn't graduated even from high school. He had a 10th grade education. But the truth be known, his prayer was answered, and he got a job the next day as a singing toothbrush on the radio. See, we didn't have television back then, guys. That's how long ago it was. And he got a job as a singing toothbrush, and he made enough money to pay the hospital bill to get his wife out of the hospital. And he viewed that as a sign that he should pursue his passion, which was acting and entertaining. Fast forward, he went on to enjoy great success. But unlike a lot of folks that enjoy great success, he remembered the promise, the prayer that he made to St. Jude that day. So in the 1950s, he formed an organization called ALSAC, which is the organization that I lead. ALSAC stands for American Lebanese Syrian Associated Charities. That's right, folks. I'm the CEO of American Lebanese Syrian Associated Charities, and I am proud of it. We exist solely to support St. Jude. Danny Thomas created ALSAC to build St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And why? As a Lebanese immigrant, he wanted to say thank you to God and the United States of America for giving his parents and yes, I'm Lebanese, my grandparents, the opportunity to come to this country and to make a life. Thank you. So they set about trying to build St. Jude. I'm proud to tell you that my father was one of those persons that Danny Thomas tapped on the shoulder in the 50s and said, help me do this. And they did. And they built St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, but they did something absolutely visionary. It was going to be a one-of-a-kind hospital that defied all of the odds. What do I mean? Well, first of all, he decided to build this hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, and open its doors in 1962 at a time when our city, Memphis, was segregated and many parts of the United States was segregated. Why did he put it there? Because Memphis was the epicenter of the poverty belt of the United States. And he wanted to provide access to specialty medical care to all kids, regardless of their race, their creed, their religion, or their ability to pay. And from day one, in a segregated city, we welcomed kids from all backgrounds because we wanted every child, regardless of their circumstance, to have the same opportunity at surviving childhood cancer. But he went one step further, and he decided to tackle an incurable disease. You see, leukemia, the most common form of childhood cancer, had a survival rate of 4%. So that means 96 out of 100 kids that would be diagnosed would pass away and pass away quickly. That was a disease he decided to tackle first. And the other thing that he did that was absolutely revolutionary was that he said, we aren't going to charge. No family will ever receive a bill from St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, not for the cost of treatment, travel, housing, or food, because all we want moms and dads to worry about is helping their child survive. What this means in current times, folks, is that we didn't want moms and dads to make healthcare decisions based upon how good their health insurance was or how much money they had in their bank account. And you see, treating childhood cancer means doing things that aren't going to be covered by insurance anyway, because many of these protocols, these therapies are experimental. And fast forward just 56 years later, and St. Jude Children's Research Hospital has taken the survival rate for that leukemia from 4% to 94% today. So I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that vision. And they brought that vision to life, in this way in the early days. They looked at this as cancer doesn't discriminate. And the way we look at it is neither do we. But we're very, very different than many of the organizations that you will hear about in philanthropy and many, many of your organizations, okay? So yes, we lead the way. The world understands, treats, and defeats childhood cancer, and we share our research freely so that kids all around the world benefit from the work that's done at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, even though our labs and our hospital is physically located in Memphis, Tennessee. But our business model is completely different than any other hospital that you're ever going to hear about, okay? So that makes our storytelling, which is what I want to talk to you all a little bit about today, that makes our storytelling challenge very, very unique. Remember, folks, we are not a grant-making organization. ALSAC has to raise this money literally to operate a hospital. And moms and dads around the world are depending upon us that we raise that money. So our storytelling has to relate to our business model. And we have to highlight to the public the importance of charitable giving. Because as I said, we literally raise the money that's necessary to operate St. Jude. And now St. Jude has a budget of over $1 billion per year. That's the operating budget at our hospital. So clearly, folks, we have to raise well north of $1 billion per year because 75% of the money, and it's closer to 80 when you throw in capital, 75 to 80% of the money necessary to run St. Jude comes from the general public. We like to say we are middle America's charity. Our average donation, we proudly say, is $43. We are the people's hospital because the people of the United States literally operate this incredible institution. So that means that our audience in terms of storytelling ranges literally from preschool kids all the way to people toward the end of their life. So our target audience literally is everyone. So our challenge through our history has been how to make our story, how to make our mission everybody's story and everybody's purpose. So we started, as I told you, from very, very humble beginnings, okay? And we really tried to be all things to all people. And you know, when this is what it resulted in, and this is not something that I'm proud of. I have the privilege of becoming the CEO in 2009. And this is kind of what I inherited. And as you can see, there's a lot of challenges with that look. Look, the organization was incredibly successful, but we had stagnated, and due in large part to the Great Recession, but also we had stagnated a bit. And you know, we didn't really have any real brand equity, but we needed to change. So one of the first things I decided that I was going to do was to create a marketing department. So back in 2009, I want you to think about that. That's 9 years ago. ALSAC, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, didn't even have a marketing department. So I created a marketing department. But I had to hire a chief marketing officer, the person that was supposed to be here speaking with you today, Emily Callahan. I think she's the best chief marketing officer, and I don't say in the not-for-profit world, in the world. That's how good I think she is. We recruited her from Susan G. Komen. She's done absolutely incredible work. And the first thing Emily and I decided to do is that we had to do some brand research so we could take a look at the way the world sees us. So, we weren't breaking through, as I told you, and our revenue had flatlined. I want to take you back to 2009, and I want you to think about what the world was like back then. iPhones had been released maybe a year or two earlier. iPads had just come out in 2009. Twitter was becoming a mainstream platform. Spotify was rapidly gaining users. But in 2009, our great host, Amazon, had 2 million Prime members. In 2009, our great hosts only had 2 million Prime members. Now they have, I understand, over 100 million Prime members. In 2010, Netflix increased its spending fees on streaming to roughly $200 million from $31 million the year before, okay? You get the point here. The world was changing rapidly, okay? And all of these things would shape the coming decade from a marketing perspective in both the for-profit and not-for-profit space. But like you guys, all of you are doing great work here, but we needed our brand to break through. We had to figure this out. So what we decided to do after we did the research was we said we're gonna set a bold vision, and we're gonna move St. Jude from a strong brand to an iconic status. We knew we had all of the ingredients to make it an iconic brand, but why weren't we breaking through? So I'm going to quickly run through a couple of these things, and hopefully you guys will have a couple of takeaways for your own brands here. So as I told you, we started with research. Our organization had been doing research before 2009 when I became the CEO. I actually was on the board for well over a decade before I became the CEO and was chairman of the board. And I used to see that brand research, but I didn't really understand that brand research. We weren't asking the right questions, is what it comes down to, and we really didn't understand the data. We were using our research literally to kind of justify our results or to validate the way we had been doing business. But we really needed to ask the right questions and then listen to people's answers, even if they were difficult to swallow. So, if you really want to be an iconic brand, you have to really listen to what people say, and then you have to measure your brand's performance. So what we did after we conducted the research was that we built a proprietary brand scorecard. And we really tracked our brand. So we were looking at as we talked to donors or potential donors, the likelihood to donate, whether they trusted us, whether they were familiar with us, what was their favorability feeling about St. Jude Children's Research Hospital? Were we relevant as a brand? And I have to tell you, we learned some ugly truths in all of that. And the three basic things that we learned was people didn't understand us. People that knew us loved us, but they really couldn't say much about who we were, okay? St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, they knew we were a hospital, but they didn't know the kind of work that we did. And it was our fault. And the second thing we learned was that our marketing was inconsistent, and it really wasn't helping to build the brand, it was actually harming. And as I showed you that slide of all of our different programs, people would create this collateral and it was competing against each other. There was no consistency, no clear message that was being delivered by all of these programs that had program owners who were kind of doing their own thing. But we did have one thing that was breaking through. We kind of owned one thing, the in-treatment child look, and people really resonated with that. And the third thing that we found was that our authenticity was off the charts. People loved our mission, which is really very simple, finding cures and saving kids. But we weren't telling our story well. So that leads to the second kind of takeaway here. Always take the time to get your story right. So, you want to make sure if you have important messages that they're actually standing out. I told you our main message. It has to do with the fact that no family receives a bill from St. Jude. We thought that message was getting through loud and clear. But we did more research and we conducted testing on that message, and we were wrong. We thought simple was better, but the research told us that we actually needed to make that message a little bit longer. And then, we had to hit not only the rational side of the brain, but the emotional side of the brain. Appeal to people's left brains and to their right sides of their brain. So what we did was we modified our no-bill message. And when we modified that no-bill message to put the why in, it resonated. So we used to say no family would ever receive a bill from St. Jude, not for the cost of treatment, travel, housing, or food, period. But we didn't have the why. And the why was because all we want mom and dad to worry about is helping their child live. That made all the difference in the world. And that's why we always say those two things together. And that really did resonate with the public. But we needed a second message, okay? We needed tangible outcomes to tap into the rational side of the brain. And that's where our treatments messaging comes in. That also is very, very unique, because treatments invented at St. Jude have helped push the overall childhood cancer survival rate from 20% to more than 80% since we opened more than 50 years ago. And then we added this, and we won't stop until no child dies from cancer. So those tweaks really made a big difference. And then the third lesson that we learned in this process was this. We needed to inspire and enable and empower everyone to be accountable to our brand. Now, I got to tell you, the first part of this journey was the easiest part of the journey. But trying to get people in your organization to change after many, many years of doing things one way was not easy. It was not easy. People don't like change, okay? And they've been resistant to change. But here's one way that you can motivate all of your employees to be more adaptable to change. Hold them accountable. Create goals. And that's exactly what we did, okay? So we created an enterprise goal. Everybody at ALSAC and St. Jude are responsible for our brand. So your annual performance goals are based on two things. There's more than two, but two basic things we all share. We all have a revenue goal, and we all have a brand goal. That makes every employee that works at the charity or at the hospital brand ambassadors. And we hold people accountable to that brand goal. So folks, what that really did though, that led to a culture of cooperation and collaboration between our various teams. It resulted in consistency and execution. It motivated correct behaviors. And our employees started sharing, the St. Jude message in this very way. And then something really, really incredible happened. Once we kind of broke through all of this, people started sharing the St. Jude story in this very, very consistent way. So from preschool kids to adults, people were connecting with St. Jude. It resonated with them that we stopped talking about our patients as patients, that we let them just be kids, and that the moms were not moms of patients. They were moms of kids as they were speaking to the public. And it really, really resonated. And then the last thing that we learned here was we had to know our audience, and we had to reach them in every possible way that we can. So, we learned what to say, how to say it, who to say it to, and where to say it. And in our case, the audience was rather broad because I told you, we're appealing to preschoolers all the way to people at the end of their life. So talking to everyone isn't easy. And in this changing world that we're operating in, it becomes even more and more of a challenge. But that's why we subscribe to this belief that we need to use every tool in our marketing kit. And this next slide will show you what we mean by that, because we literally market in all of these channels. And you don't have to market in all of these channels, okay? You can't do everything. We're blessed to be able to do things like this, but avail yourself of many of these channels, okay? The key is to do it in a coordinating fashion. Ask yourself, are you telling the right story? Are you telling the right story to the right people? Are you telling the right story to the right people at the right time, okay? And you need to develop strategies for every single one of the tools that you intend to employ as you advance your brand. Now, I want to focus for a second on one of the tools, and that would be digital, okay? And we really have had to reacclimate our organization. And I tell folks now, we've been on a digital transformation at ALSAC and St. Jude for the last couple of years. And we're blessed to be able to be a bit ahead of the curve on all of this. But it required evolving our marketing. We had to transform our marketing because of all the digital channels that were available. What I tell our organization now is we no longer have a digital strategy. At ALSAC, we don't have a digital strategy. We have an enterprise strategy in a digital world because we need to think digital first about everything that we do. So, the world is changing fast. I'm going to show you a couple of things down the road here in a second, but 3/4 of the world's mobile traffic will be video in 2021. All the video length is getting shorter and shorter, right? There's a lot more clutter out there. People are all over the online space. So you got to make sure that your stories get through, and you got to maintain that authenticity. I want to give you an example of a piece of creative that we just put out that I think has been a game changer for us. So why don't we roll that video? So a lot of us use our technology without sound now, right? So we can't expect people to be listening all the time. People do multiple things at the exact same time, right? So we decided to test a video approach with no sound. And I think most of us can relate to that when you see a mom with their child there. Obviously the child is sick, and then we put our main message on there. And we think there's a lot of power behind silence in a way that, that I think will ultimately stand out. So far, the testing has been really pretty much off the charts. So that's just one example, and I could give you many, many more. But let me just kind of review here. So those are the 4 takeaways for this morning. We started with research. We took the time to get our story right. We inspired and enabled everyone and held them all accountable. And, know your audience, guys. Know your audience. So the question is, did it work? Did it work? Well, in my introduction, that very kind introduction, thank you, you heard some of our slides. Can we go back one slide? So this is where our brand stands today. 4 out of 5 Americans recognize it. We are the #1 health not-for-profit brand, not measured by us, but by Harris Interactive 5 years in a row. We're the #1 most inspirational brand according to the World Value Index. We have the highest favorability for any not-for-profit. We have the highest quality score of any brand in America. That includes for-profit brands. We are one of the top places to work in Memphis, Tennessee, not in Seattle, not in San Francisco, in Memphis, Tennessee, for the cherished millennials and Gen Z. And our revenue has more than doubled since 2009. So look, we're proud of those accomplishments, but people that work for me know that that's not good enough. Okay, and we need to disrupt ourselves again as we operate in this world today. We have to constantly improve. We have to constantly evolve as a brand and as a charity because the world is changing rapidly. And let me make this business case for you. I think this quote from Astro Teller, the head of moonshots at Alphabet's X Factory, says it all. Let's read it really quickly. What we're experiencing today with shorter and shorter innovation cycles and less time to learn and adopt is the difference between a constant state of destabilization and an occasional destabilization. The time of static stability has passed us by. So folks, that does not apply only to the for-profit world. That applies to all of us in this room. We are living in a disruptive world. Our space has been disrupted. We know that, right? And we can have a conversation about that if you don't believe me. Just think about micro-philanthropy. Just think about donor-advised funds. Think about intermediaries, okay? Thankfully, like Amazon and Google and Facebook. We've been disrupted, and we need to understand that, and we need to change how we approach our storytelling. So, I use this slide to my employees all the time. So when we think about strategy, we are constantly looking at marketplace trends. And that's a very detailed slide, but if you just look at the 6 big boxes there, we've got changing demographics, right? We're gonna become a majority-minority country in another couple of decades. So we've got changing demographics, we've got digital nativism, we've got radical transparency, right? All of our brands are out on the internet now. People can look and see all of our financials and all of our ratings and things like that. We're in an era of big data and artificial intelligence. Tons and tons of business disruptions going on. For those of us that do a lot of direct marketing, whether it's the Postal Service and all the potential changes coming down the pike on postal, because we do a lot of direct marketing through mail at ALSAC St. Jude, or the way people consume media. We do direct response television, right? Not all media has commercials anymore. It takes advertising. So we've got to figure out ways to break through all of that. Our industry has been severely disrupted. And then, of course, we have all of this regulatory uncertainty. Many folks think that we're going to be adversely affected by the tax law changes. I'm not so sure for those of us that have Middle America charities. I'm cautiously optimistic about how that all works. But could more regulation be coming down? We know we've got data privacy issues that we have to deal with. So all of these things should inform your marketing and your fundraising strategies. A couple other marketplace trends here. Next slide. I mentioned some of these, so I won't hit too many more, but there's now more network devices than people. So everything has to be mobile optimized. Whatever you do, whether it's your website, it all must be mobile optimized. We're approaching 4 billion social media users by 2020. 70% of mobile traffic is going to be by video. Get your videos out on mobile. You've got to get that out. And then by 2021, more than half of all computing will be done by voice. I think this next slide illustrates my point very, very graphically. People don't like it when I use this slide. So, this just tells you that if you don't disrupt yourself and change your businesses, you're not going to be around for very long. So we've watched many Fortune 500 companies fail or become greatly diminished. Only 3 companies on the top 10 list of the Fortune 500 in 2006 remain on that list 10 years later. And I want to give you this stat. Over a longer period of time, an American Enterprise Institute study showed that only 12.5% of the companies on the Fortune 500 list in 1955 were still on that list in 2015. So guys, that slide tells it all. If you don't change, if you don't disrupt your own business, if you are adverse to change, you're not going to be around long. And that's true for charities as well. We have to adapt with these changing times. It actually makes it easier to market today than it did even 10 years ago. So with all of this progress comes challenges, right? So I really want to focus here for a second on what are the next set of challenges that we have. But let me show one more video here that I think puts our mission in perspective. It's a quick one.
It's pretty amazing when you consider that 7 years ago, we didn't have the treatments we have now. We cure 80% of children with cancer. If you think about that, go back 50 years, we were curing 20 to 30%. This is the miracle story of modern medicine. We understand what makes this cancer tick. And of course, without donors from around the world, this just couldn't happen. And there's one thing we're focused on here at St. Jude, and that's beating this thing.
So what are our challenges for the future? And I think these challenges hold true for all of us, and we can wrap up here. So how do we all stay relevant? Okay, how do we continue breaking through? I wonder how many of you have already tuned me out. And I say that facetiously, but our good friend Gopi, the chief evangelist officer down at Google, says that the telephone has become the 79th organ. How many of you have checked your phone during this presentation? I know some of you are, see, there you go, okay? The 79th organ right there. How do we reach people in a world of distraction? I love this stat. In 2000, the average attention span was 12 seconds. In 2000, it was 12 seconds. But according to Microsoft, it's now down to 8 seconds. That's a substantial change, right? But for millennials, it's around 5 seconds. So how are you going to keep people's attention? I'm trying to keep yours here this morning, so I hope I've done okay. Second of all, we all have to be vigilant when it comes to our brand. Okay, so that means 365 days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we have to monitor our brand. We live in a one-tweet world. One tweet can have a devastating impact on a brand. It can move stock market prices, and it can affect a charity as well. And we all know what I'm talking about. So we have to make sure that we're all great caretakers of our brand. Every day we focus on this. We're monitoring the media to see what people are saying about our brand. And third, in our case, and I hope it's in many of your cases, if you have the opportunity, in order to stay continually relevant, you have to take the opportunity to expand your mission. And I told you that our founder wanted no child to die in the dawn of life. He didn't say no child in the United States. He said no child should die in the dawn of life. So we've taken on another challenge. And we want to now take us global. We're already in 17 countries, and we have 24 clinics in those 17 countries. But around the globe, over 300,000 kids are going to be diagnosed with childhood cancer. Many more will go completely undiagnosed because they don't have access to medicine. The survival rates in the developing world are less than 10%. Yet we have a problem that is solvable for the most part in the United States. Overall survival rates are around 80%. We can do better around the globe. And that's why St. Jude Children's Research Hospital announced a global initiative to try to impact up to 30% of the global cancer burden within 10 years. And we think we can do it. We think we'll do it with our great friends at Amazon, okay? Because they've been an amazing partner to us. And we'll partner with other NGOs from around the globe to try to make that happen. But that's the next frontier for all of us. So folks, I hope that I'm gonna stop here and show you one more quick little video that puts our mission in perspective and give you a couple seconds for questions here. I hope you found some of this stuff relevant to you. The bottom line here is all of us can be great marketers. All of us can be great storytellers. We need to do our homework. You need to be consistent. You need to be authentic. You need to use every tool in your toolkit. But whichever tools you use, make sure you have the appropriate strategy for them, and then be vigilant. Protect your brand at all costs. Let me end with this video.
I may be in a wheelchair, I may only be able to walk on crutches or a walker, but that doesn't stop me from doing what I want to do. My name's Austin, I'm 17 years old. We need to draw like an arc just right around here. And I've had to persevere through a lot of things in my life. So at 2 years old, I was diagnosed with a rare spinal cord tumor. I did chemotherapy and had many surgeries, rounds of radiation, but I've been in remission close to 10 years now. And I am a cancer survivor from St. Jude.
So what am I doing?
My parents basically exposed me to all these different sports, and they wanted me to test my hand in announcing. And it just has grown on me from a young age. And now I don't let physical limitations even cross my mind at any point in time.
Draft who you want them to draft, bro.
That's what everybody's telling me. I'm just hoping to be sitting in a broadcast booth somewhere. Hopefully, that's my goal.
Austin, which name are you gonna say? Who do you want the Broncos to pick?
So, for me, life's moments, every moment counts. So, you gotta seize the moment.
Your story is inspiring to all of us. We want you to enjoy every moment of what goes on in there tonight.
Oh, it's exhilarating.
How do you think Austin's feeling?
Nervous.
Do you think he is?
So the people that donate to St. Jude are miracle workers, because if it wasn't for them, I feel like I wouldn't be here today. And it's an honor for me to be able to tell people St. Jude really did save my life.
You just don't know which way it's going to go.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the fun of it, right?
Austin!
With me tonight to announce Denver's pick is Austin, who is a St. Jude patient.
With the 5th pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Bradley Chubb, defensive end, NC State. Truly an awesome feeling for me, and it means everything.
Wow. Yeah, oh man. Oh, that was that play. That was great.
So this right here is what happens after you announce a draft pick. Oh, there's still more. Still going.
Thank you. So, So we're fortunate to have a wonderful relationship with the NFL, and they give one of our kids the opportunity to announce a first-round draft pick every single year at the draft. And we asked Austin to go this year and to make that pick. And Austin has interviewed Peyton Manning before during his last game at the Super Bowl, and he's had a wonderful experience. But just to show you again the other way that St. Jude impacts these kids, because of that exposure, he got a full ride to college. Okay? So I'm really proud of Austin. He's a great kid. So guys, thank you for giving me the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you this morning. Amazon, thank you all. We appreciate our partnership together. We've almost raised $5 million toward our life-saving mission. We truly appreciate everything that you all do in this conference. So we've got about 7 minutes to go. If you guys want to ask me some questions, I'm more than happy to try to answer them. And if not, you can go back to your cell phones. It's all good.
So one of your points you brought up was do your research and get your data. How is it that you are getting your data? Are you like backfilling things you already know with others? Are you asking surveys, or just how are you getting that information so you can actually do the research with such a big base that you have?
Okay, so we look at it from a variety of sources. So I'm going to say yes to everything that you said, and then we do use a third-party data source, AIQ, to give us additional data. But we do not sell our data. We do not give we cherish our donor information. It's completely private and confidential. We're blessed to have 11 million donors, and we are on a journey toward personalization. I think we'll do customization first, but my team says we'll get toward personalization soon. So that's where we're going. We want to be able to communicate with people the way they want to be communicated to, not the way we want to communicate to them. That's what we've got to do as brands. Yes, ma'am.
You happen to have been fortunate enough to have one of the two most valuable things to market with, kids and dogs. I have neither. I work with adults who are very poor to help them get to where they're a part of our knowledge-based economy. I'm going to ask you a real toughie. How do we sell those adults?
Well, look, I need to understand more of what you do. But again, I'd ask you to appeal to the emotional and the rational, okay? We all were children once. You know, fortunately, only 16,000 kids are going to be diagnosed with cancer in the United States this year, okay? But cancer has touched all of us. So we have to try to make that relevant, okay? People think it's easy what we do. Folks, we are a single hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, okay? We are a specialty hospital. You all have an amazing children's hospital right here in this city. It's incredible. Seattle Children's does amazing work. I say it all the time. But we found a way to stand out, okay? We were pretty bold. I mean, our founder took a big risk when he said we weren't going to charge. People told him he was crazy. My father was one of those persons that told him he was crazy. My father was a lawyer in Washington, D.C. when he was approached by Danny Thomas. Didn't know him, okay? We happen to be Lebanese like him, and Danny wanted Lebanese people to help him create St. Jude. What would we all do today? What's your business model? How's it going to be sustainable? Okay, that's all the questions we would ask, right? Okay, and a lot more. But they were risk takers. So sometimes to get your brand to cut through, you got to take a couple of risks. They got to be calculated risks. I would be more than happy to spend a few minutes with you talking about ways we could do that.
I'll take you up on it.
Okay? Yep. You'd rather have Emily Callahan, my chief marketing officer, though, so. Anybody else? Okay, we'll do one more, and then I'll give you back a minute.
Hi, good morning. We had a speaker here yesterday that was talking a lot about that kind of 10% slice that charities don't want to go over in terms of overhead and marketing. Have you guys worked your way beyond that slice and used that as a way to grow?
Well, was your speaker Dan Pallotta?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm familiar with the book Uncharitable. And so look, it costs money to raise money. Okay, I don't think I shocked anybody in this room. It costs money to raise money. Okay, so you know you got to start with that fundamental premise. And To acquire donors is a costly proposition. Okay, the question is whether or not you can keep a donor. So you need to decide if you're investing in one of the most expensive ways of making your charity grow, that is acquiring new donors, whether or not you think you can keep them on your file so that you can get the right return on that. Now we're talking business here, right? Okay, you almost hate to do that in the charity space. I'm not afraid to do that, okay? So the answer is yes, we crossed over the 10%. I'm not sure where Dan comes up with that, to be perfectly honest with you. That's not what the rating agencies say or anything like that. But you need to be completely transparent about, how you're spending people's money. And that's what we do at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Again, we're an operating hospital, so we're a little bit different than many grant-making organizations and things like that. So, guys, my message to you all is if you believe in your brand, okay, you need to invest in your brand, okay? You need to make intelligent, informed investments in an effort to grow. That's why we're doing it. We're trying to grow because what did I tell you we're trying to do? We're trying to take St. Jude global, okay? This is a solvable problem that has a resource challenge, right? There's no money in El Salvador, and Guatemala, and Honduras, and Costa Rica, and parts of Africa. These are countries where the economies are limited, right? Okay, so how are we going to raise money in those economies? Well, many of our economies are blessed, right? So why can't we help? I have a dream that we'll partner not only with Amazon, but with Amazon, with Google, with Expedia, with Microsoft, and we're all going to come together to try to solve a global healthcare problem. Because guess what? It's solvable. It's a resource problem. So if we can put together the right business model and I can challenge my friends at Amazon, we can solve this problem and more kids can live. Thank you for putting up with me this morning. God bless.